draft. I will be here. I will be here on the YouTube. Changed a few things. I'm actually, what the hell is this? Oh, it's my vacuum cleaner. Okay. All right. Yeah, I was doing some vacuuming around here. Pretty excited. I actually put some blackout curtains in the back. It is like pitch dark in here. It could be noon. It looks like midnight. It is pretty fantastic. I don't have the live stream set up for the Thursday live for the Thursday draft. So, oh man, God, you know it's a good show when the first thing I see is, I'm just gonna read it. The man, the myth, the legend, the B in the Back Talk Brothers, the talent, Gooch. And Gooch is actually going to be joining me Thursday for the draft. I'm going to try to get as many people as I can to come on and talk draft. I will be live for the entire first round. I will be on a little early, and I am going to be here up into pick number 32. Gooch, man, things have been good, man. Today's been kind of a rough day, but things have been good. I got some blackout curtains in the living room. It is pitch fucking black in here. It's freaking fantastic. I loved it so much I put one up in the bedroom. And guys, I got a treat for you today. Okay, so I like to do my final mock draft without trades, but this year I'm going to just flip it up. I'm going to do my final mock draft without trades tonight. However, if I get enough people to jump on and say, no, Dan, I don't like that pick. Let's go with this instead. Let's throw out a trade. We're going to do what you want to do. We're going to do what you want to do. By the way, I have a link below to the NFL mock draft database simulator. I am a big fan of it because it's free. I don't know what the paid version is like. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is perfect. There is a lot of freaking ads on here, but it's really cool. It's free. Tuesday, when I do my final mock draft, there are going to be trades for the first time ever. I'm going to use only the Rich Hill trade chart, only the Rich Hill trade chart, not the standard Jimmy Johnson old school one. And even though I am a bigger fan of the Jimmy Johnson chart, I think it's easier to read. I like everything having an even number. I'm familiar with it. The more I look at the Rich Hill chart, the more it makes sense, even though it's not really friendly. Like pick number 24, for example, which is the Dallas Cowboys, is 237 points versus 24 would be 740. I like the zero at the end, but it makes sense. It makes sense why they do it. It makes sense why the NFL has this way. I like it. Slasher, what's up, brother? 6 days, fella. Let's lock this thing in soon. I got Quinion Mitchell in on a bet for 220 return to give him defensive rookie of the year. Did you already make the bet? If you already made the bet, I'm going to pull for you. If you haven't made the bet yet, I'd hold off because I think where he goes is a big deal. I've mocked him consistently going to the Colts, and if you take a look at that division, you got some good quarterbacks, you got some good receivers, but I also could see Quinion Mitchell in that division, given he might be better than Kenny Moore. I think early on, you know what? If he goes for the Colts, I could see him get a lot of if let's just say he goes to the Colts, I can see him getting a lot of targets. Kenny Moore's an underrated guy. A corner is tough. Slasher, do me a favor. If you already made this bet, you know my social media links are below. Stay in touch with me throughout the year. I hit up Denver Gator this week because there could be some big things happening this fall. I told Denver Gator about it. Denver Gator said, Dan, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So, but we'll see what happens anyway. Denver Gator hated the idea, but it's something I'm picking. He's the only person I've told about so far, but there could be something really big coming this fall. Funk says, I keep getting told the Lions will move back by Lions fans, and I don't think so. The Lions don't really have room for 7 more guys. People talk about the money, but don't realize it will be cheaper to move up to 15-ish. You know, Funk, when draft season started, I was really adamant the Lions would move back, add up a lot of draft picks. I thought you guys would lose a lot more than you did. You didn't lose that much, and you added in free agency. I was really expecting the Lions to really move a big step back, and they actually moved forward a little bit. They're actually better after 2 months of free agency than they were before 2 months of free agency, and that I have to admit I'm really floored. So if you look at the history of Brad Holmes and what he's done, what has he done every single year in the draft? They've moved up. So let's take a look. Year 1, 3 wins. Okay, not good. No offense, you guys have been there before. You know what it's like. It's nothing new. What was year 2? 8 wins, 8 and 9. Knocked Packers out of playoffs. People are like, wait a minute. This isn't a bad team. Then this offseason, there were some crazy Lions fans talking about coming into Arrowhead and winning week 1, which everybody hated. Even Lions fans hated the fact that you won week 1. Nobody liked that. Get to an NFC championship game. And what did you do every single year? You moved up in the draft. So when you do something consistently and you see it working, why not do it again? I really expect the Lions to move up. No trades in this mock draft. Unless I get 2 people that say, Dan, no, do this instead. I'm going to just go. I personally think the spot is 21, and that's Miami, who needs a 3rd and a 4th. And Miami has a lot of holes in free agency. I mean, they lost a lot of players. They lost starting corner, lost starting defensive tackle, lost starting linebacker. I think one of their guards. I know that they love Tua, and I know they keep talking about him, but have they signed him yet? I'll be honest, man. If Michael Penix Jr. is available at 21, I might do that. So I fully expect the Lions to move up. I don't know about 15, but 15's it's actually funny. There was something in Chiefs social media, and they mentioned 15. 15 is held currently by the Indianapolis Colts. Chris Ballard, he's the general manager for the Colts. He was the number 2 guy when John Dorsey was in charge with the Kansas City Chiefs. So he has ties to both John Dorsey, who's now with the Detroit Lions, of course, and of course to the Kansas City Chiefs. So 15 could be a spot that both Kansas City and Detroit could look to. I fully expect Detroit to make a move. I'm eyeballing Miami, and that may be the move Tuesday. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll see. Perry, what's up, brother? Last show, Bryce Hall, the Baylor defensive tackle. It's funny because Keys said something about this when I told him that I just love big, long dudes. And one thing about Bryce Hall, he's 6'5". I love the length. Not nearly the player Chris Jones was, but he had that length. I would love to see him be like an old school 3 tech. Or I'm sorry, an old school 5 tech. It'll be interesting to see. He's a guy I've been seeing a lot of mock drafts, or I'm seeing a lot of people saying 2nd round. He's a guy I think it's going to fall like 3rd or 4th, and I'm not really sure. It'll be interesting. I'm going to keep an eye out on him on draft day, though. But thanks for bringing him up too. And I'm sorry I had a brain freeze. Oh my God, Keys! So Key says, how's your mock not start off with 3 Iowa guys? More importantly, how's it not start with 3 offensive players from Iowa, which is now in the Big 29. I think there's now 29 schools in the Big 10. Iowa is, I think, in the Northwest Division now. So, okay, keep me informed of it because I love Quentin Mitchell. He's my number 1 corner. If he goes to the Colts like I think he will, I've been mocking that pretty consistent. He'll be going against some good quarterbacks and some good receivers, but he'll be the number 2 guy. He'll get lots of opportunities. But I think somewhere either in 2025 or later in the season, he'll be the number 1 guy. They signed Kenny Moore, and they also signed the safety. I'm drawing a blank on his name to a 1-year deal. So it'll be interesting to see. But I keep me informed, Slash. I'm all about people winning money here. Oh, man. God, I got some. I started a Madden franchise with the Lions. They're a juggernaut now. That is awesome. Keys is now switched allegiance to the Lions. Corey, what's up? I'll try and be here as much as I can, man. I'm glad you're here, brother. Glad you are here. Very glad to see it. And, you know, what we're going to do is do a mock draft without trades. But if I get vetoed too much, let's just we're going to do it. I'm going to let majority rule here. My final mock draft will be with trades, and that will be Tuesday. But this is going to be just a mock draft without trades. However, I'm going to let majority rule here. 15 is 3.5, or 315. 29 is 2. Oh, you're talking cash. Okay. Yeah. Money. Seriously, when it comes to money, I don't think that the draft, the Lions are worried so much about the money. It's just moving up and giving up draft capital. I think that's the biggest concern. That's why I think 29 to 21 makes sense, because you give up that 3rd round pick. And by the way, the 3rd round pick, according to Rich Hill chart, it would be 202 plus 65. So it'd be a 267. The Miami Dolphins pick 21's 261. That makes sense. 29, you give up a 3rd round pick. Miami doesn't have one. They need one. I would definitely do that. And by the way, I mean, is it high? Yeah, it's a little high, but I think it's fair. If I'm Detroit, I would easily give up my 1st and 3rd to move up to 21 if there's a guy and I think somebody like Latu Latu will be there. Jerzon Newton could possibly be there or something that I can't remember. You like Latu, if I remember correctly, and then One Pride likes Newton. I think both those guys could be there at 21. One of those guys is definitely going to be gone at 29, if not both. So the K and the Back Talk Brothers, the Kool-Aid Slipper Killer, and Mr. Reality Check himself. I love it. It is a hell of an introduction. Why not do it again? What if they don't have much of a choice? It's a lot easier to move up when you're not on the radar of other teams. They made the NFC Conference Championship game price to move up a little pricier now. It's a possibility, but you know what? I don't think teams. Well, here's the deal with NFC, AFC. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I could see a team like Cincinnati, Buffalo, maybe Baltimore saying no to Kansas City. I don't see a team like let's just say Philly at 22 going, oh no, we're not going to trade with the Detroit Lions. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I don't see an AFC team saying, oh, no, we're not going to trade with Detroit. But NFC teams, it's kind of funny because the NFC North's been weird. Detroit moved up 20 spots 2 years ago in round 1 with Minnesota, of all teams. And I really want to mock the trade that makes sense to me would be a Chicago Green Bay trade. I don't see those two teams making moves. but Minnesota's made trades with both Green Bay and Detroit. So it's hard to say. I don't think that applies the same that it would with Kansas City, where I think teams in the AFC like don't want, like Kansas City's on the phone, they'll like click, where all right, what do you want to do? But I do think that Detroit is definitely going to move up. The question is who's going to be available at 21 that would start, that won't make it to 29. Corners won't be starting here now. Is there a stud wide receiver? Turner, a lot to reverse. Turner probably goes top 10 now. See, I'm thinking I've been mocking Latu at 21. Could you get I'm trying to think here. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., would you really make that move? I would be floored if Detroit went wide receiver, but a little some help on the front seven, I really could see. Dallas Turner, God, I would love Dallas Turner. If Dallas Turner to Detroit would be fun, but yeah, I got Turner. I've been mocking him consistently to Atlanta at 8. So H Keys, I'm a big God. We're trying to keep this PG. Keys, I'm so glad to see you, man. I thought about calling, but I know you've been busy. It's been kind of crazy. I got kind of a weird story for you. I'll tell you. If you're free this weekend, I'll give you a call. There's a weird trade I saw on ESPN, but would the Giants do it? They get a first-round pick, 28, second-round pick, 60, fourth-round pick, 128, 2025 first-rounder, 2026 first-rounder. The Bills get number 6 this year. I saw the same thing, and I 100% don't believe the Bills would do it. And the trade would be to try to get the Bills one of these elite receivers, specifically Malik Neighbors. And I saw the same trade. The thing is, when I look at the Bills, and by the way, it's not outside the realm of possibility. The Bills have way too many holes, and I don't see them just going all out for an elite receiver. That said, do you remember what they gave up for Diggs? It was something crazy. It was the 21st pick in the draft, which the Vikings used for Justin Jefferson. It was like 4 other draft picks. It was a lot. And it worked. But if I'm Buffalo, I don't do it. But would the Giants do it? I would say no, because the Giants are one of the few teams in the NFL that may need a receiver worse than the Bills. And I say may. I was just reading that Sterling Shepard is holding out. He was coming off of an injury. They got, was it Wendell something, since the kid out of Kentucky. I hated to pick at 46, but then once they got rid of Kadarius Toney, I was like, okay, it makes sense. Still big reach. He probably could have been available like 4th, 5th round. That's why I didn't like it. Galladay didn't pan out. Drawing a blank. Who's the tight end from the Raiders that didn't pan out either? I think he may have retired or something. But I really think the Giants really need a playmaker at receiver. And here's another thing. If they make that trade and they don't get to the playoffs, there's a chance Giants just clean house. But at the same time, I could see the Bills maybe doing it. I don't think the Bills would do it. Could the Giants do it and then say, okay, we're going to do this because we want a backup plan in case Daniel Jones isn't the guy, be giving him another opportunity. I'll be honest, and it has nothing to do with the fact that we went to the same high school. They ought to give Drew Luck a really long look. Probably assuming that the Bills would, yeah, exactly. 2026 third rounder. Oh, okay. I saw the same. I have a hard time seeing the teams do it. Quinion Mitchell, is he a Falcon or Raider? I've had him fall into 15, and that would be the Colts. Atlanta would be a lot of fun. Atlanta would be a lot of fun. You have a world-class secondary. I'll be honest with you. Quinion Mitchell goes to Atlanta. You put him with A.J. Terrell, Jesse Bates. That's probably the best secondary, but they got no pass rush. So I if they do that, then I think they have to jump back into the first round. Remember, they pick at 74 and 79. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where Mitchell goes to the Raiders, but I really think that they need right tackle more. Their right tackle, their starting right tackle is now in New York with the Giants. So I traded for Micah Parsons, Anthony Richardson, Jesse. Oh my God. I don't think you're going to do it. I think you're going to make a move, and it's worked. Speaking of Josh Allen, or thinking about this one on the bus this afternoon, if you're a 49ers, a few other teams, would you trade for Josh Allen? If you're Buffalo, would you accept the house? I don't think you do. I think the Bills love him, but to tell you the truth, what would be a fun trade, and I have no idea what they would have to give up. My guess would be, and I doubt they would do this, but Max Crosby and multiple first-round picks would be the Raiders. Have Josh Allen come to Vegas, and I can see something like that. But I think in order for the Raiders to swing it, Max Crosby would have to be involved in multiple first-round picks, and that would be fun. Yeah. Third in the future, fourth makes it easy to move up the round. Yeah. Well, I think seriously, a 1 and a 3 get you there, and I don't think Miami wants a future pick. They don't have a pick in rounds 3 or 4. So, not saying teams wouldn't trade Detroit. Just saying, is there a bit of a premium? Oh, okay, I get you. Ooh, oh wow. Okay, so it's funny. Part of the reason I got the blackout curtains, it's 90 here. My computer says 89. It was 90 outside. It's starting to heat up here in the desert, so it's 40 there. That's interesting. So, Keys, maybe if I look at the roster, half the draft will be dealt. Will be on the practice game. Yeah. Rob, did I get a name wrong? Did I say Sterling Robinson, or I meant Sterling Shepard? So Sterling Shepard retired. Okay, Waller retired, and Shepard is I think I saw something where Shepard's holding out. It's Wendell Robinson, Tinsdale, something like that. I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was not a good first-round pick for the Raiders. Yeah. It was funny because somebody was adamant that he was not going in the first round. I kept mocking him to the Raiders at 17, and the Raiders did pick him at 17. And I think 3 years later, he was out of football. It's a shame because, I mean, he looked, it was really weird. And I remember reading this article about why Alabama tackles don't play as well in the NFL. It was really interesting. It was just like, once you get out of the structure of Alabama, and even in the NFL, it's just not the same. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, Waller, I heard was retiring. Sterling Shepard apparently is holding out. So he says he doesn't know what he wants to do. Yeah. Bill Belichick is doing Pat McAfee's draft show, so as much as possible, I'll be on that live stream. Hated him with Brady, but respect it. Well, hey, listen, if you can, come in and say hello because I'll be here live. Gooch will be here. Keaton, Talk Sports. He was he's kind of on the fence. I'm going to reach out as many people as I can, but please come in and say hello. I was thinking about teams like 49ers I could throw in. To be honest with I get where you're coming from. I wouldn't see a team like San Francisco, who I think really likes Purdy, but I could see a team like maybe Seattle just going all in on Allen. But like, I've been playing around with Seattle taking Michael Penix Jr., but you have to trade up. So Buffalo's resetting. So if you're thinking, if you're the 49ers and you just want to win the Super Bowl, might throw. So here's the thing: Buffalo doesn't feel like they're resetting, and I know that me and you probably look at them and like, yeah, you're resetting, but they don't think so. They're like, hey, look, we had massive injuries on defense last year. We were still the fourth best in scoring defense. So now we're just going younger and faster and cheaper. We're getting rid of Diggs. I think they're getting rid of Diggs partly because he's a headache. Dalton Kincaid will be the number one receiver. James Cook could be a potential superstar. So Buffalo doesn't feel that way, even though a lot of other people do. So I don't think that they really believe that they are resetting. So we are going to start with the draft here. We are on the clock here. I'm going to knock the first two out really fast here because I'm going to go Caleb Williams and I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels. And these two have been pretty set in stone for a while. There is no trades in this mock draft. And I think New England, when everything's said and done, my final mock draft with trades, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm going to go with Drake May as the pick here. By the way, if somebody vetoes, I can start over from scratch. It is not a problem. If you notice here, there's trade options, there's auto draft. This is with some one to paid features that by the way, if you do a draft, I did a Chiefs draft and I ended up with like 15 draft picks for next year and 15 draft picks. So the trades are really weird in this tool, but but I'm going to go with Drake May here. I'd have to look through the source, but the other day I was listening to a major source talking about one of the reasons it had to do with reset. I don't think that I'm not going to try to argue with Keys. If by the way, don't ever argue with Keys. One of the worst things you can ever do. But the Bills, I don't think believe that they're resetting. They're just going younger, and that's not always a bad thing. Teams have done this in the past and have been successful. The defense, even though they got a bunch of new starters, they had a bunch of injuries last year. They're still fourth in scoring defense. It was pretty amazing, to tell you the truth. And by the way, you could easily say, hey, look, we gave the Chiefs a run for their money, just like Baltimore did, just like San Francisco did. So we're one of the four best teams in football. They could say that. I don't think that they really believe that they're resetting. That's just my opinion. Yeah, it would seem like the right start. I wouldn't be shocked though if Chicago went Jaden. By all accounts, Chicago. By the way, I'm a level with you, Funk. I am not. I am not sold on Caleb Williams, but apparently the Bears are. From what I gathered, the Bears when they met with him absolutely loved him. I'm pretty sure Williams to Chicago is a lock. Jaden Daniels to Washington seems like it's set in stone. In my opinion, Funk, my opinion only, the draft is going to start at 3. And that's when New England comes on. I think it's going to be Williams and Daniels. So. Anyway, straight to the window of that iteration. Yeah, I mean, no, I get where you're coming from. And by the way, a lot of people said that the Chiefs are reset and they had one of the youngest teams. So, but yeah, doing so is kind of funny. but I'm gonna tell you something. I don't think Buffalo believes that they're just resetting. I think that they still think that they're one of the best teams in football. And look, losing to the Chiefs isn't a terrible thing. So, So I got quarterbacks in my mock draft going 1, 2, and 3. Drake May will go to New England. I think that this is where the draft starts because I think Minnesota will try as hard as they can to get Drake May. Josh McCown, the quarterback coach, was May's high school coach. I've been watching more and more of them. I think of all the quarterbacks in the draft, I think May actually has the most upside. And it would make sense because Mac Jones, Alabama prospect, but there was nothing really elite physically about him. I'm one of the few people that's not sold on J.J. McCarthy, even though everybody says so. So I would not be surprised if New England just says, look, let's just get the guy with the most upside. So had to say that I'm seeing too much of Kansas City traded Tyreek Hill and it worked out as an excuse for Buffalo and other teams do it. Yeah, sure, January, Kansas City had a ring. So it was a little different too, because, you have to understand Kansas City was more than happy to pay Tyreek Hill. And then it all started with Devontae Adams getting the big cash grab from the Raiders. And then, his agent's like, hey, wait a minute, Tyreek Hill's better than Devontae Adams. You can debate that, but that's what his agent said. And the Chiefs were like, well, we can't give you Devontae Adams money, but we can shop around and see if we can end up with a fair trade. And I think Miami ultimately is happy with it. They didn't get a ring. They lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, but I'd be shocked if Miami's like, no, we hate Tyreek Hill. And I'm still a big Tyreek Hill fan. It's just, hey, man, the trade worked. And I don't blame him for taking all that money and going to South Beach. So don't blame him at all. I don't know why I'm drinking an energy drink. I don't need it. I really don't need it. Pick number 4, I firmly believe that, by the way, wide receiver is going to be the pick. It's who Arizona likes best, Harrison, Neighbors, or Aduze. I've been mocking Marvin Harrison Jr. to Arizona, and I'm just going to stay there. Pick number 5. Funk. Yeah. And by he's from Florida. And by the way, he lived in a place called Overland Park, Kansas. I moved from Overland Park, Kansas to the other side of the country. And it's not a bad place, but it's not really, I'll be honest, I don't blame him for leaving. I don't blame him for leaving at all. So more money, moving home, and Miami is a better place to live than Kansas. Dan moved to where holistic. I'm gonna level with you, man. The marijuana use, it's weird because there's a couple doors down. They're the nicest couple, and they got their kids run around here. They're slobs. Matter of fact, there's chocolate all over the mailbox, but they're super nice kids, and they just sit outside and smoke weed all day. It's weird. She's like watching her kids doing bong hits. I'm not going to get used to that. I'm not going to get used to it. Yeah, the marina incident, the house fire, and the divorce. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I have to ask Pete Takes, but love his playmaking, but Kansas City saw his weaknesses and writing on the wall in multiple ways, including how Kansas City stifled him twice last season. You got to remember Kansas City was getting ready to ink him to a contract. It was really just a matter of time. And then kudos, I think his agent's Lee Steinberg, Leigh. I think it's pronounced Lee. for holding off and not trying to sign him to the big deal right away, and then got him, an additional, I think it was $10 million a year or what have you. I don't think the Chiefs had a problem. It was a lot of people after he left. There was rumors that he was. Oh, it's Rosenhaus. Okay. All right. Let me know. Can somebody give me a heads up here in my back? Can somebody give me a heads up if I am back live? Okay, somebody give me a thumbs up or something. I believe I'm back now. But yeah, I'm sorry, my internet service. Thanks, guys. All right. I firmly believe when everything's said and done, the Chargers are going to go ahead and move down. I think that they want to litter their roster with former Wolverines. I think that they really want to switch things up. I'm going to give them a lot of credit. I would have bet almost anything that they would lose either Bosa or Mack. They kept them both. They moved. They moved Keenan Allen, who's one of my all-time favorite players. I love Keenan Allen, but give the Chargers a lot of credit. I think they've done a good job this offseason. If they stick at 5, I know that a lot of people think that they're going to go receiver. Not me. I think they're going to go with Joe Alt. The reason why I like Alt at 5 to the Chargers is because Rashawn Slater as a rookie was lights out at left tackle. Got injured his second year. They moved Jeremy Slayer, a 6th-round guard out of Georgia. He played tackle, switched to a guard at the NFL. They put him at left tackle. He played pretty good. Slater came back, didn't really play that well last year. Really didn't play that well last year. This is year 4. So if you draft Alt, now you can play hardball with Slater. You could say, hey, look, we got your replacement right here. And even though you're going to play Alt at right tackle, you could easily move him to the left side. And then you could also move on from Slater. You could actually trade Slater if you really wanted to. Is there a team? This year's draft is going to have a ton of tackles. Next year's draft may not. So if you need an elite left tackle, you can say, hey, look, there's Rashawn Slater. But, hey, look, you got to either give him the 5th-year deal, work out some sort of an extension, yada, yada, yada. Or if you're the Chargers, you could just say, hey, look, we're just going to have 2 really, really, really good tackles for a long time. Harbaugh's going to want to build this team through the trenches. I really don't think he's going to go receiver. I've been mocking Neighbors to the Giants, and that's kind of going to be my pick here. The Giants are one of the few teams in the NFL that really desperately need a receiver. It's kind of funny because the trade that who was it that proposed so that the Bills could get Neighbors? I think the Giants are one of the few teams in the NFL that needs a receiver more. So. Keys is on fire today. I'm so glad Keys is back, man. God, I miss Keys. I miss Keys quite a bit. I'm sorry, I've been messing with my pinky nail. It's all messed up. I normally put tape on it because I can't help myself just messing with it. I smashed it during the summer. It's split up into pieces, and there's like it doesn't grow back at the same time. I always mess with it. I gotta stop doing it. Number 7. This is where my draft gets interesting. Brian Callahan was with the Bengals when they could have taken Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase, and they went with Chase, and they went to a Super Bowl. So I think that even though almost every mock draft has the Titans going tackle, I think one of these receivers are available. I think you go there. I think Odunze is seriously 10 years from now, we may be wondering why anybody didn't go after Odunze. It wouldn't even surprise me if there's a team, and I'm looking at the Jets at 10. Trying to think if there's another team. There might be a team like maybe I think Washington has some other holes, but there could be a team that says, hey, look, Tennessee, what do you want? And you could look at multiple first-round draft picks. I call it the Houston syndrome because look at what the Houston Texans did. They gave up a first and a third next year to Arizona. And at the time, we're all like, man, Texans got swindled. Texans won a playoff game, and Arizona won 4 games total. So who won that bet? Now we're all looking at Houston like, man, this is how you build a team. Could there be a team that says, hey, let's get Odunze now? In this draft, I'm going to stick with Tennessee and Odunze. That's where I'm a little different than most people. Atlanta, I got Dallas Turner. I've been mocking this ever since they signed Cousins. I don't see how you don't go Dallas Turner. Your biggest hole is getting after the quarterback. Your offense is now loaded. You got 2 really good positions in the secondary. This defense isn't bad, but they got nobody who can get after the quarterback. So Dallas Turner kind of has to be the pick. I don't, because, and the reason why is you went to a Super Bowl. I mean, as much as we talked about the Lions and what a great job they did they get to a Super Bowl? No. Cincinnati did. I also think Cincinnati went the free agent route with over 700 pounds on the outside. You could always argue that. But I think he's going to say, hey, look, we went with Chase, and we went from picking 5, that was right, 5th overall, to go into a Super Bowl the very next year. And by the way, you know what they did is they came into Arrowhead and beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC championship game with Chase. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm also looking at this. Even the biggest ult supporter is not going to sit here and go, Odunze is not a better prospect. So, yes. And I am saying that. So you say, if you need Chase, you're saying Burrow isn't good enough to win with Higgins, Boyds, etc. Correct. I know, but also, but Chase had a really good game. I think if you take Jamar Chase out of that game, Chiefs win that game. That's my opinion. They wouldn't have beat Kansas City with that. That I agree with too. We both love Lou Anarumo. Me and Keith both love Lou Anarumo. This is where I go a little weird. If I'm the Bears, and I 100% think that they moved from 9, but if I'm the Bears, I've been mocking this for a while, Leatu Latu. And the reason why I like Leatu Latu is you put them opposite Sweat. They drafted 3 defensive tackles last year. Gervon Dexter, a second-round pick out of he went to some southern school. Denver Gator can help me out. Some school in the SEC, blue and orange. Anthony Richardson played there. I don't know. The Denver Gators not here. Anyway, I really like Latu on one side, Sweat on the other. You've been building up the interior. Hey, look, you get your superstar quarterback. He's got weapons. Let's just give the Bears what they need, and that's a great defense. I think Latu opposite Sweat, where he doesn't have to be the number one guy. I think it could be gold. I've been mocking the same thing. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where the Jets go Bowers, but you have the oldest offensive tackle group duo in the NFL. You got a 38-year-old quarterback who's coming off of an ACL tear. I think Olufasinu, who played here. Let me break this down with the tackles here. Fuega, Latham, Guyton all played right tackle. A lot of people think that they could play left. The Jets are trying to win now. Fasanu started left tackle for a couple seasons. Fatanu played guard and tackle. I think you got to go with either the here or here. Fuega, who played only right tackle. A lot of people think he's better suited for guard. Yeah. You have Tyron Smith, who's not been able to stay healthy, protecting a guy who's coming off of an ACL tear, who's going to be 39. I think you definitely need somebody who could play left tackle immediately. That's why I like Olufasinu as my guy here for the Jets. I've been mocking this pretty consistently. A lot of mock drafts I've been saying Bowers to the Jets, and I get that. It makes sense. But I look at Mike Williams. I just had a brain freeze on the former Ohio State wide receiver. I also look at Breece Hall. So I'm going to go a little different here. I'm going to go with Olufasinu as my pick to the Jets. By the way, when everything's said and done, McCarthy will not be available at 11. The Vikings will make a move if he falls anywhere past 4. And I'm thinking specifically the Chargers at 5, and that's where I see the trade being made. But in this mock draft, they just get lucky here. Vikings get their guy at 11. I've seen a lot of things with the Denver Broncos. Bottom line, I think you get your quarterback. I think you get him now. I go with Bo Nix. The reason why I like Bo Nix, I'm actually a big Bo Nix fan. I watched him as a true freshman at Auburn. Reminded me a lot of Tim Tebow. I think his completion percentage was 52 or 53. Last year, he was number 1 in college football. It's like 78. He's a big, thick, sturdy dude who, you know, I can't keep it straight. Mac had to drive to the store real fast to refill an energy drinks. Truth be told, if Bowers was a line, I wouldn't be mad at it. Him, Laporta, St. Brown, J-Mo, and Gibbs had you game. No, it would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun. I would watch it. It'd be a great offense. It's funny. It's the definition of dink and dunk, because you got guys like Laporta and Amon-Ra and Bowers that can make plays after they get the ball in their hands, and then you get a guy like Gibbs, and then you get a guy like Jameson Williams, who can he's the deep threat, and then it would be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun. Bowers falls to us. Holmes better. But Bo Nix going to Denver, I think, makes a lot of sense. I would not. If this is the guy who you think can be your day one starter, don't dick around. Just take him at 12. That's the way I feel. I've gone back and forth with this. But if I'm the Raiders, I go Michael Penix Jr. I have a major man crush on Michael Penix Jr. He's my favorite quarterback in this draft. May, I think, has the most upside. Michael Penix Jr. might have the most upside. he's just got the big arm, massive upside. But I like the way he conducts himself. I like the way he carries himself. That was something that I really liked about C.J. Stroud in last year's draft. Just kind of got that it quality, that vibe, that Bowers is going to the Jets at 95% confident. I really think it's going to be tackle. I think that the Jets are going to say, look, let's just keep Rodgers upright. I hope Holmes stays away from Mims. That guy's is just injury prone. Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. That's what keeps him. That's what could keep him out of round one. But if I'm the Raiders here, I want to go back to this pick here. I don't dick around. I've been mocking tackle. They got a big hole at tackle. I've mocked Latham and Fuega here. Both those guys make a lot of sense. But I'm going with Penix because he's your quarterback. He's your day one starter. The upside is limitless. You look at the division that you're in. Who do you got to beat? Who do you got to beat? Your best chance is going with a guy like Michael Penix Jr. Is it a reach? Yeah. Do you want to play around and hope somebody? No, I don't do that. I've been mocking the same guy to the Saints, Troy Fautanu, and the reason why is he has inside-outside potential. A couple years ago, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 years ago, they drafted, drawing a blank on the guy's name. And anyway, they drafted a left tackle. I'm drawing a complete blank on the guy's name. I want to say it was like North Dakota State. And they reached on Gibbs. I remember that. Yeah. It's driving me nuts. I can't think of the guy's name. So anyway, he's been a complete disaster with the Saints. Matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if he's moved on draft day. The thing is with Fautanu is that he can play. He could be a starting left tackle. He could also work out at guard. He's a guy that could be your starting left tackle day one. That's kind of the reason why I kind of like him there. So I think he could be your starting left tackle. If things work out, you can move him inside the guard. You need some day one starters on the offensive line. Here's the drill. If you think any one of these guys can start day one at left tackle, then you go ahead and take him. I think Fautanu's the guy for the Saints. And I've been pretty consistent on that as well. This is where I think Quinyon Mitchell goes to the Colts. He would be a day one starter, and he's a guy that just has massive upside. I didn't watch him play at Toledo. I heard about him more and watched him at the Senior Bowl. But when I saw him at the Combine, he was a big dude, and I was like, if he runs like in the 4.5 range. He's going in the first round. He runs a 4.33, and I'm like, holy shit! This is a grown man, and he's going to be really good. Slasher still cracks me up that people said he was a reach, even though teams from 14 to 17 all said they had their eyes on him, and mocks he was okay. So Funk, I didn't see any mocks where he was going. I saw almost no mocks that Gibbs was going in the first round. Basically, there was a lot of mocks he was going in the second. That's why I'll stand by it. It was a reach, but it worked. But I didn't think he was going in the first round at all. That's why the line took him at 12. I'm like, what the hell? But most mocks he was going in the second round. That's why I thought 12 was a reach. But it worked. Got to an NFC Championship game. But, I'll stand by it was a reach. But I gave the Lions a B+ last year. So. Seattle, I think, really wants to make a trade here. And I'll be honest with you. Look at what Mike Macdonald's done. He's always built his team with inside linebackers. Cooper, Edgerrin Cooper here is a guy probably not going in the first round. This is going to be a really good football player. Peyton Wilson, if medical was not an issue, he would be a first round pick. In this draft, though, it's just way too high. I'm going to go with kind of a dark horse here, and I'm going to go Byron Murphy. You need help on that front seven. You got two pretty good edge rushers. You need some help in the interior, but Byron Murphy is going to be my pick here. By the way, you're 100% correct, Funk. You're 100% correct, and that's the cool thing. That's why I wanted that's why last week I had Big Chief Sean and I had Keaton Talk Sports, and all three of us were going to tag team this because three different people have three different opinions on things. And what I think's different than what Keaton thinks, and what Keaton thinks different than what Big Chief Sean thinks. And that's why the NFL draft is so fun, because 32 different teams are going to have 32 different big boards. So yeah. And he is. So that's why I love the draft so much. Right after the season was over, Jacksonville fired the defensive coordinator. They need help in the secondary. Turion Arnold, a lot of people before the combine had him going top 10. He's available here at 17. I think that's a no-brainer. That would be my pick. Brock Bowers to the Bengals. They signed Mike Gesicki to a one-year deal. He's not the long-term solution. I think you absolutely, positively got to take him here if you're the Bengals. Great weapon. So who cares what? Yeah, exactly. So Bowers to the Bengals here. The Rams. A lot of people think that because Aaron Donald left, you have to get a replacement. I don't personally, but you do need help getting after the quarterback. They did lose Leonard Floyd in free agency, so or they add Leonard Floyd. I'm just drawing a complete blank right now. No, I shouldn't be doing this right now. No, that's right. They did. Okay. I was all right. I lost my mind. So, okay, Funk says Slasher define reach because a lot of people argued if Bijan or Gibbs was the number one running back, and no one said Bijan was a reach. The position value is up there. No one really argued who was the number one running back. No one. It was universally considered Bijan Robinson was the number one running back, and that was running back number one. There wasn't an argument. Some people may have liked Gibbs better, but for the most part, Bijan Robinson was the number one guy. Trying to think here off the top of my head. I'm just drawing a blank. I don't even remember who the number 3 guy was, but yeah, I mean, listen, Funk, it's not really a debate that Gibbs was a reach at 12, but it worked out. So that's the whole thing. Verse or an LT is the pick for the scam race. I have a hard time because Fuega, a lot of people have already off the board here. Brian Thomas Jr. Is a guy that other teams would want to trade for, but I'm going to go Verse here. I don't think you have to take a defensive tackle, but I do think you need to add to this front seven. Verse is just too much to pass up. If you think Fuega is better suited to play guard, then this might be the pick. Funk says go back and look at YouTubers do mock drafts. I did mock drafts. I did a ton of mock drafts, and I think I never put them in the first round. So I go with my opinion. I mean, I know there's other people that do it besides me, and I'm not saying that I'm the only one, but I did a lot of them, and I didn't. So it's a dick thing to say. I know Funk, but that's just kind of my opinion. The one thing with I've been mocking Jackson Powers Johnson to the Steelers ever since the combine. I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep doing it just because I think that the value is there. The positional, like, this is a day one starter. By the way, if you're convinced that like Fuega is an inside guy, you may want to do that. But I know that there's a hole at center, and Jackson Powers Johnson to me just looks at I've just been mocking this all ever since the draft. So my favorite, the Lions messed up last year when people said they should have taken Meyer. By the way, I did have Meyer ranked higher than Laporta, but I thought for what the Lions were doing, Laporta was a better fit for the Lions and for a team like Kansas City. But Meyer was I did have Meyer rated higher than Laporta. Full disclosure, I was one of them. So, but Meyer is a guy that has to have his hand in the dirt more than be split out. Laporta is a guy that you want to split out more. So, Steve Avila, by the way, had a really good season last year. I'm kind of surprised he didn't make the Pro Bowl. Key said Dan straight on Meyer. I had Meyer ranked higher than Laporta, but a team like Kansas City, a team like Detroit, even a team like the Giants that traded, for Darren Waller, that wanted to make Laporta. But yeah, I was really high on Meyer. I loved him coming out of Notre Dame. Loved him. He didn't work year one, but he's a guy who could have a big year this year. Especially if Michael Penix Jr. throwing in the ball. Gibbs was just picking up steam before the draft. I really don't think so. There wasn't a lot of mock drafts that I saw with him even going in the first round. But I mean, and I keep saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. It worked out. It worked out. So, but I didn't see that personally. 21 with Miami is interesting. Here I am going to go Fuega, even though I think that there's other players on the board. The reason why I would go Fuega is because they lost some guards. Austin Jackson is a guy that had a fantastic year last year, but was considered a bust. He was a guy, I'm comparing him to Tyron Smith because they both played right tackle at USC. They thought that they were 20 or 19 when they entered the draft. Austin Jackson may be a long-term solution. Terrion Arnold said he is going to come back. There's talk about him retiring, so you may need to prepare for that. Move Austin Jackson over to the left side. Look, this is a guy, probably the best offensive lineman here. You can get cute and creative. It wouldn't surprise me if Miami takes him, even though they have holes other places in the secondary. You just find a home for him. And I think he'll start year one at guard, and then he'll move over to either right tackle or maybe even left tackle, depending on how he pans out. But I think that will happen is he'll start at guard, then he'll move over to a right tackle, even though they did sign Austin Jackson and they made some other moves on the offensive line. Look, you're trying to protect Tua. Here's your guy. I've been mocking the same thing for Philly. Nate Wiggins is yeah, I know. I know. I do know that. Bo Nix is off the board. I've been mocking Nate Wiggins to Philly for a long time. The reason why I've been mocking, as far as pure man ability, this is the guy that you want. He under, what was he, 173 at the combine, has some problems tackling. I get all that stuff. You really need some help here. So Minnesota, when everything's said and done, I have zero confidence that they're going to be picking at 23. But if they were, I can go a couple different directions here, but God, I really want to do Cooper DeJean here, but I'm going to go in a different direction here, and I'm going to go Chop Robinson. And you're going to look at me sideways, but look, you lost Danielle Hunter, the other guy who's in Carolina right now. You need to get some defensive help. So if you're Minnesota, when everything's said and done, they're not going to be taking. They're not going to be picking 23. But you lost your both edge rushers in free agency. Take a guy with massive upside and a really good defensive coach, and you could have something very special here. I know a lot of people, the center is missing. I called him Tyler Badass, but he was a former 4th-round pick. If you want to go ahead and go Graham Bartram, I wouldn't hate that, but I really think that J.C. Latham's going to be a pick when everything's said and done. The small U of M cornerback, yeah, I've been seeing that too. It's Mike Sandstrill. In this here, he's ranked 49, and he's been rising up. When this first started, he was like at 70 something. This is a guy that you want to pay attention to. Actually, it's kind of funny. Sandstrill, TJ Tampa, and Max Melton. This is a guy that a lot of you may not know. Greg Schiano, longtime NFL coach, coached in New England for a long time. He was going to be the New England Patriots defensive coordinator, then resigned. He's now the head coach at Rutgers. Max Melton is 56 here. Don't be surprised if Max Melton ends up going late in round 1. This is a guy that's getting some love, and you are right. Mike Sandstrill is also getting a lot of love too. Tyler Guyton met with Green Bay, and I heard that this could not have gone any better. I think Guyton, Green Bay will trade up for him, to tell you the truth. I know it says 30, but I think Guyton's really rising up in the draft boards. I actually don't think he'll fall below 20. I really don't. I think that there's going to be several teams that are going to trade up for him. Green Bay lucks out in this mock draft and gets him at 25. Tampa Bay, I'm going to go with Graham Bartram, and a lot of people say that, hey, look, you're going to take defense. What's been Tampa Bay's biggest problem the last couple of years is interior offensive line issues. Get a guy that he played left tackle at Duke, but he started off, I believe, at guard or at center. This is a guy that at Senior Bowl played everywhere on the offensive line. I think he's going to be a guard. Last year they drafted the kid out of North Dakota State, Cody Mauch, that's his name, Cody Mauch. Cody Mauch, same situation, played left tackle at North Dakota State. They tried him at guard and at center. He played really well, making a living at guard. I think Bartram will be either the guard or center for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Look, you signed Baker Mayfield. You retained Mike Evans. Protect your offensive line. You're a defensive-minded coach. You got 2 picks in rounds 3. Yaya Darby was a 3rd-round pick, led the team in sacks last year. So work something out later in the draft. So Graham Bartram's going to be my pick here. If Thomas is on the board, Tampa, I agree completely, because I know that you love Brian Thomas Jr. It sucks because every time I watch highlights of Brian Thomas Jr., I'm like, there's no way that this guy drops below 15, but I keep mocking him falling in every single draft I've done. But if you watch the highlights, he's amazing. Then go back and look at the combine. He looked great at the combine. I agree, Perry. Matter of fact, I can make a case that all these teams after Seattle, so at 17 all the way down. By the way, Brian Thomas Jr., put him on Jacksonville. How good would that be? They lost what's his name to Tennessee. They lost Calvin Ridley to Tennessee. Brian Thomas Jr. at 17, if he's there, that's when people should start saying, hey, you want to call? If I didn't have Bowers going to Cincinnati, I would take Brian Thomas Jr. Cincinnati. Because when everything's said and done, I don't think T. Higgins is going to be there. So yeah. And you know what? He very well could be. Go watch. If you watch tape on him, he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. I want to do something fun here with Edge, but I'm going to go Johnny Newton. Here it's Jazon. That's how I've been calling him. You guys have been calling him Johnny. I've been calling him Johnny myself. I'm also a huge fan of Braden Fisk here. You need some help getting after the quarterback bad. I get that. But out of these edge rushers, you could probably get one of these guys in the second round. Keep in mind you have 3 third-round draft picks. So you can get maybe Marshawn Nealon, Braylon Trice. Chris Braswell's a guy that I am starting to get really, really, really high on. Darius Robinson's one of my draft crushes. But here, if I'm Arizona, I get Jazon Newton and build inside out because you have some big space eaters. You don't have anybody you can push pressure inside. Jazon Newton is my pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Nobody likes this, but Brian Thomas Jr. goes to Buffalo at 28, and everybody hates this. Everybody absolutely hates this. I've been toying around with Zach Frazier, who I think, it was funny, I was listening to Around the Sticks podcast, and they were talking about the interior offensive lineman, and the guy from Detroit gets asked Daniel Jeremiah, hey, which one of these guys is a Dan Campbell type of guy? And he goes, Zach Frazier. Zach Frazier, 4-time state champion, high school wrestler, not really big, not overly athletic, just tenacious. I really want to put Zach Frazier here because if you go ahead and Zach Frazier, I think you could play him at guard or at center. And I think it could work out. I think day one he would start at guard. I think he would beat out one of the guards that Detroit currently has. And then, God, I'm drawing a blank on the kid's name out of Arkansas. I say kid, but he's been with the Lions for a long time. I'm so embarrassed. I'm drawing a blank because I think he's a great center. Frazier could go ahead and take over. I really, really, really want to put Zach Frazier here. And by the way, I think this would work. I really, really do. But I'm going to go Cooper DeJean because I think Cooper DeJean will play corner. All right. I think he'll be a corner. It was funny because Funk responded to one of the guys in my comments who said, it's a lock. Cooper DeJean's a first-round pick. And I'm like, he's absolutely not. By the way, when you say somebody's a lock to go in the first round, there's probably 10 players that I think are going to be locks as first-round picks. And Cooper DeJean is not that dude. Cooper DeJean is not that guy, but I think if Detroit drafts him, I think they just play him at corner, but he'll be a special teams dude. And then if they do get some injuries, like CJ got injured last year, so Brian Branch had to step in, played phenomenal. You can do the same thing with Cooper DeJean, but I really like him. I could also go Kool-Aid McKinstry, but I'll be honest with you, Frazier, the way Frazier broke his leg off, Frazier is one of my, I really, really, God, I kind of want to change my mind now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go Cooper DeJean. If the Lions don't take an edge in the first and Kneeling won't, no, he will not. I get what you're saying, Funk, but sometimes corner's a premier position. I really think corner's a premier position, and I also think that if you take a look, you got Caleb Williams, you got Jordan Love. Who knows what you're going to pick in Minnesota? So when I look at what's going on in the NFC North, you get a guy like Cooper DeJean. I mean, because bottom line, Minnesota, believe it or not, even though they're probably going to draft a quarterback, they want to run the ball. It's a run first team. I think Chicago, when everything's said and done, they're going to be a run first team. All right. Green Bay, even though Jordan Love had a great year, they're a run first team. So getting a corner who's not afraid to tackle, who's physical, who can make some plays. I get what you're saying because he's a multifaceted guy. I think in Detroit, Cooper DeJean would just be a corner, and I don't think it's a waste because I think corner's an elite position. But can he do more? Yeah, he can. And by the way, could you get creative if you're Aaron Glenn and use him in some different positions? Sure. That's definitely a possibility, Perry, but you don't trade what they did to get back into round one just to get a guy. I said the same thing about the Saints last year, and they ended up taking Chris Olave, so I could be wrong. It's happened before. It's happened before where I've been wrong about things. I was wrong, like, for example, in the worst thing that ever happened to start a season, I was wrong about my Chiefs losing week one. Everybody hated that. Even Lions fans hated that. But I really believe that when everything's said and done, the Vikings have to get a quarterback. So I don't think they want two guys. I really, really, really think that they're going to take a quarterback. If the draft falls like this, I firmly believe that Marius Mims is available. The Ravens will roll the dice on the massive tackle. They've done this before, and it's worked out. They traded their right tackle to the Jets. They have some holes, but they do have a hole at right tackle. And Marius Mims, I personally am not that high on. I would pass and go Kool-Aid McKinstry, but I'm looking at the way the Ravens draft. And listen, by the way, if Mims is healthy, like, there's a chance he could be one of the top 5 tackles. We may be talking about Mims as being one of the best right tackles in all of football. And this is the perfect spot. So I'm going to go Marius Mims here for the Ravens at 30. When I look at teams in the North, I see one big receiver and one small receiver on each team. Davis does well against bigger outside guys, and Robertson does well against smaller outside guys. You're right. I mean, Robertson does play better against smaller outside guys, and Davis does well against bigger outside guys. I get that, but I really think DeJean's the type of guy that Dan Campbell's really going to like. And I think even though I would have him playing just corner myself, just that's how I would do it, there is a possibility that you could move him around. My hunch is if Cooper DeJean is a Lion, they're just going to sit him on an island, say you're going to be a corner, and we're going to ask you and Carlton Davis to do the same thing. Robertson's going to play on the inside, and that's how we're going to use you. However, if injuries happen, I would look at Cooper DeJean. Hey, can you play some safety? And he did at Iowa. So my hunch is, this is such a hypothetical. Number one, does he fall to 30? Or I'm sorry, does he fall to 29? Number one. And if he does, do the Lions say, hey, he's a corner? I think they will, even though there is there's definitely a possibility that he could be a safety. You could just say, hey, look, we want a safety that has corner ability. My hunch is that they're just going to say, listen, Mosley, we signed him. He can't stay healthy. He's going to have to fight for a roster spot. Right? I think that they're just going to throw Mosley and Cooper, and they're going to say, hey, you're going to compete for the number 2 corner spot. Carlton Davis is going to be corner number 1. By the way, they're not going to say that. They're just going to say, hey, look, Davis is on the left. You guys are on the right. Winner starts. And that's what I think. Did the Lions bring him in? I do not know that for a fact. And that's the whole thing about mock drafts is that they're fun. They're meant to be fun. I am tempted to go with Cooper Beebe here, but I'm going to go Zach Frazier. When in overtime in the Super Bowl, Now, keep in mind, there's been a lot of Brandon Ayuk. By the way, Brandon Ayuk, I am thinking, even though there's smoke, I think he's going to stay. If not, Adonde Mitchell could be the guy. Lad McConkey could be the guy. I don't think Xavier Worthy's the guy. I personally think San Francisco, because Chris Jones just ran right over to guard, the right tackle, he signed for a one-year deal. But I think the 49ers really want to improve the offensive line. You could also go with a tackle here. Jordan Morgan has been a guy a lot of people have had in the top 20. But in my opinion, I think San Francisco really needs some help. Look, they want to be a run-first team, so I'm going to go with Zach Frazier as the pick, even though Cooper Beebe, the massive guard from K-State's also enticing as well. I hope Davis can be a number one corner for us. If we can fix the pass rush, he can. I've never considered him elite, but I think he's decent. So could have given the Lions Beebe. I know, yeah. Beebe is a guy that I really, really, really have liked, and I really could see that because this is a big earth-moving type of dude, and I really like him quite a bit. Matter of fact, I could easily put him at 31, but I'm going to put Zach Frazier instead because I think he can play guard. Or I think with the 49ers, because I'm drawing a blank here, I think the center spot's set, but the guard spot isn't. In this situation, Frazier would play guard and then eventually move inside. For the Kansas City Chiefs, I've been mocking the same guy, and it's Patrick Paul, tackle out of Houston. Somebody turned me on to him. Welcome, One Pride, brother. Yeah, Cooper would be interested. Somebody turned me on to Patrick Paul. Patrick Paul is somebody who a lot of people have as a third-round pick, but he may be the best pure pass protector in the draft. If Patrick Paul is the pick, like I think he is going to be, and I kind of want him to be. For those of you who are not familiar with him, he's 6'7" and a half, 336, 335, somewhere in that range. Massive long arms. He would be a day one starter and a slight upgrade with over Donovan Smith. There's a lot of things you don't like, but here's the drill. He can be a day one starter at left tackle. I like this kid. I don't think he's elite, but if you're the Chiefs, you don't have a starting left tackle. You don't have a starting left tackle. This is your day one starter, and I really, really like this. So I am going to save this for those of you who are interested. I am going to go ahead and I am going to copy this in the thing below. So, by the way, yes, there is a way too many ads and commercials and everything. So, I mean, I do this all the time. And there's just, yeah. Tricks you may not forget. Yeah, there's literal commercials, but we'll go over this real fast here again. And by the way, you can check this out. It's available for about a week after. So, Funk, I think, BB is a guy that I think he's going to go in the second, but he might be available in the third. I do agree with that. Hey man, I'm glad. I'm glad, man. I'm really glad. I've been meaning to DM you about that, man. I think that's freaking awesome. Do you think Patrick Paul might get picked before around 25? Possibly. He's a guy that's been skyrocketing up draft boards, but I got him going to Kansas City at 32. The more I watch of him, the more I like. Long, athletic. He has this weird problem. People say he catches his defensive ends. I think it's a coaching issue. I think that's how he was taught. They throw the ball a lot at Houston. It's not technically a Power 5 school. This year, they're coming back to the Big 12. I say coming back. I don't know if they ever were, but they're part of the new Big 12. I have to get versed on all the conferences, but Patrick Paul I think he will be available at 32, but he's getting a lot of hype. Most mock drafts have him as third round pick. I get it. I think might be the best pure pass protector in the draft. That's why I think Kansas City will snag him at 32. Excuse me. Probably maybe, but you could go at the end of the first, most likely mid-second. Yeah. Do you think Holmes may trade up or back in the second round again? I think he's going to trade up in round 1, and then I think he stands pat either in rounds 2 or 3. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Because if he moves up to like 15, and by the way, Chris Ballard and John Dorsey know each other very, very, very well. They spent a lot of time together. Chris Ballard was John Dorsey's assistant general manager in Kansas City, and he's the general manager with the Colts. So there is definitely a chance. And there's rumors the Colts are looking to trade down now. There was a rumor today with Kansas City thinking about moving to 15. But I think Kansas City will stay pat, and I think because they'll stay pat because they think Patrick Paul will be there. Funk, what do you think about trading up for Newton? You like Newton. Funk likes Alate Latu. I think the Lions are going to trade up. I'm thinking 21's a sweet spot. It could be for Newton, but I think Latu might be the guy if he's available in this mock draft. I have Latu long gone. So. Trade for Verse or Turner would be nice too. I could see all those things. I also like JPJ. I know who that is. I'm just drawing a blank. Do you think Turner fall? No, absolutely not. I do not, because I'm going to go. Let's go over my mock draft real fast here. Mock draft without trades. Williams and Daniels, I think, are almost a lock at 1 and 2. The third pick is where things really get interesting in this draft. Does New England make a move or not? I think the minimum for them to move would be 3 number 1s, and I think that's from the Vikings looking at 11-23 and a first-round pick, and I think that's minimum. You could be looking at a JPJ, Jackson, okay, I think that you could get maybe 4 first-round draft picks. I've been toying. I was toying around before I got food poisoning. I was going to do just a crazy draft. I was toying around with another Denver-Seattle trade. This time, Denver gets Geno Smith, and Seattle goes to 12, takes Michael Penix Jr. I was toying around with a trade where Tua goes to Denver for a first-round pick and maybe another one. I was toying around with the Chargers trading Justin Herbert to the Patriots, which makes a lot more sense than you may think. I know what you're thinking. Like, there's no way that could happen. Are you sure? The Chargers have cap issues. They love J.J. McCarthy. You make the move and you pick McCarthy at 5. You get a ton of first-round picks, and the Patriots finally get their quarterback in Justin Herbert, and they have cap space, and they could make a deal where they still have draft capital this year for a receiver, or they stand pat at 36. 3 is where the draft gets fun. I do think so too. I've done several mock drafts, and I really think that there's a possibility 8 tackles could go in the first round. 8, maybe more. We'll double check here, but I think I have 8 going in the first round. It's pretty crazy. The offensive tackle is deep. If the Pats are, that's kind of what I'm thinking, Perry. And the trade that I think makes sense is that if you're New England, you trade out of 3, but then you trade back to 5. And you keep some of that draft capital. So you take J.J. McCarthy at 5, and then you use that extra draft capital to build up around him. All right, let's just throw this out there. Minnesota gets 11-23, 20-24 first to New England. All right. So New England has 2 first-round draft picks this year and next year. You talk to the Chargers, you're not going to get you don't have to give up all those picks. And the reason why you don't have to give up all those picks is because what you tell Harbaugh, it's like, look, either make the deal or we're not going to move. And Denver or the Raiders, you have to look at that guy twice a year. But hey, look, man, we know he's in the AFC, but you're going to see us maybe, once every 4 years, AFC championship game, knock on wood. And I think Harbaugh says, you know what? Let's do it. We get a bunch of draft picks and McCarthy goes to the Patriots. And everybody wins except for the Vikings, who give up way too much. Yeah, JP's. Yeah, I really think the Steelers love him. I think the Steelers love him. Zach Frazier. I love it. I'm so glad to see you won, Pride. Perry, no, I don't. I really don't either. I've been mocking him pretty steady to Atlanta at 8 ever since they signed Cousins. Hot take on new hip drop rule, the value of defensive players went down. That's interesting. That is interesting. Frazier has that grit factor for sure. You see when he broke his leg. You know what? I heard about it. I never seen it. I know he's a 4-time state champion as a wrestler and just like I was going to say dog in a china shop. I don't even think that's an expression, but I think he's a Dan Campbell type of dude. I'm not even done with mock draft. I'm already thinking it. If Herbert was on the trade market, the Chargers would be the king ransom because teams would be lining up. That's let me ask you this here. Instead of taking a quarterback at 3, if you're New England, wouldn't it make much more sense just forget the Chargers for a second? What's the thing that you lack in New England? You have a left tackle and you need a quarterback, all right? We have said 8 tackles could go in round 1. The Patriots, again, pick at 36, all right? I think it's 36. 90% sure it's 36. 34. What off? Okay, so you pick at 34. Okay. Wouldn't it make much more sense to give up pick number 3 and some first-round picks next year so that you can go ahead and I hate some of these commercials. And by the way, I get this a lot. This company, Luxair, it's anyway. If you're New England, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to give up for a proven commodity? And by the way, wouldn't you want to give up a king's ransom? Wouldn't you want to accept a king's ransom if you can get McCarthy? If you're really convinced McCarthy's the guy. Which, spoiler alert, I don't think Harbaugh thinks he does. I don't think it's very deep, but there is some good players. I'm going to look that up, man. All I'm saying is there'll be, yes. Yeah. All right, so let's go over this real fast here. 1 and 2, I think it's a lock. 3 is where the draft gets fun. I have a hard time picturing Marvin Harrison Jr. going anywhere other than Arizona at 4. That I've been mocking that, but bottom line, I know that there's a lot of people think Neighbors is number 1. There's a lot of people think Aduze is number 1. It's not as set in stone as you may think. It really, really isn't. It really isn't. So Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 is what I've been mocking him, but I don't know. When everything's said and done, I think the Chargers move, but if they don't, I think they go offensive line. There is Rashawn Slater. There's a question. There is a massive hole at right tackle. I really like this because you can play hardball with Slater, and if Slater pans out and still ends up being, one of the best left tackles in football, well, guess what? You have one of the best right tackles in football. That's why I like this move. So, no, I don't think so either. But he's hyping them up for a reason. There's a ton of receivers in this draft. And I think Thomas Jr. is I know you do, Perry. I know you do. And by the way, go watch some film on him. Watch him at the combine. Most years, he's the best receiver in the draft. He's a lot of fun, and he's going to be a lot of fun. And whoever takes him is going to get a stud. And let's just hope he doesn't go to Buffalo. Nobody wants to see him in Buffalo. But can you imagine him with Josh Allen? Like 1,000 yards and a dozen touchdowns as a rookie doesn't sound far-fetched at all. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Off the top of my head, I think what did Jamar Chase have? It was like 1,400 yards, 1,200 yards, something like that. I'm a lone minority that thinks Oduze will go 7 to Tennessee, but I watched Callahan draft Jamar Chase. Callahan didn't. He was the offensive coordinator. So, but yeah. Maybe the Chargers take him. That's definitely a possibility. I've mocked some trades with the Chargers, and then Brian Thomas Jr. is available. Now, remember, one thing I keep telling people is that Quentin Johnston was my number one wide receiver in last year's draft, and this is a raw dude with a lot of upside, massive upside. And in training camp, he was like killing it, and then he got hurt. So a lot of people say, like, Chargers don't have anybody. They had the number one receiver in last year's draft. At least he was my number one wide receiver, 21st pick overall. Again, the Chargers should have took Brian Branch, but they took Quentin Johnston instead. They have high hopes for this kid. So, but the Chargers could get another guy. I originally was thinking the same thing, Perry. The one thing that stands out is that they do not have the picks in picking rounds 3 or 4, and their starting running back is currently not on their roster. So that's why I vetoed that. I did do a mock draft where they traded up for a right tackle, but they got a hole at center, and they don't have a running back, and they could use some help on the defensive side. Well, not a lot, but they could use a player or two. So that's why I vetoed it, but could they get a guy like Brian Thomas Jr.? Absolutely. There's not too much of a difference, and I can't really do it, but CeeDee Lamb and Brian Thomas Jr., there's not too much of a difference between those two guys coming out of college. There really isn't. There really isn't. The Cowboys weren't looking at receiver, but when CeeDee Lamb was available at 17, they were like, yeah, we'll work. And then they end up moving Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb's, I think sooner or later, I'm drawing a blank. I think, oh no, he already signed it. Pretty sure he already signed a contract. But yeah. Do you think we see a running back in late? No, absolutely not. Trey Benson in every mock draft I've done has gone to Dallas at 54, which makes a lot of sense, even if it's Ezekiel Elliott. And Trey Benson is a bell cow type of guy, but no. Bucky Brooks calls Jonathan Brooks, the Texas running back, the number one running back in the draft, and he tore his ACL like in November. But he's a dude that could be really, really, really good down the line. I don't think we'll see one in the first round. I actually don't think we'll see one in the top 50. Trade, no. But next year, could they move on from Dak? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think you do it this year. I think that they're kind of going all in with Dak, and they're going to do everything they can to win a Super Bowl now. And if it doesn't work out, then I think they're going to say, okay, well, listen, can we make things work with Dak's contract? No. Then they're going to look at the draft. Is there a guy that they're just head over heels in love with? There's going to be some good quarterbacks coming out in the draft next year. Not as many as there are this year. But no, I don't think that they trade Dak. Not this year, but he's going to be a free agent next year. So absolutely not. Dallas Turner, I've been sticking at 8 ever since they signed Cousins. This is their biggest need. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where they have the Falcons trading down, and I'm like, why would they trade down when they get to choose the defensive player of their choice? You have a hole, fill the hole. It sounded dirty. It wasn't meant to be, but yeah, you filled a hole. A ton of commercials, but I'm using the free version, by the way. They've mentioned like, oh, if you sign up for a program, you don't have to see commercials. But anyway, so the link is below if you want to check it out. But just a fair warning, there's a lot of commercials. When everything's said and done, I think Chicago moves on from 9, but I really like Latu to the Bears if they stay. Opposite Sweat just makes a lot of sense. A lot of people don't like this pick, but I'm telling you, you have the oldest tackle duo in football. You have a 38 or 39-year-old quarterback coming off of an ACL tear, or was it an Achilles injury? So. Yeah. That's what I have here, Funk, or One Pride. I'm sorry. Yeah, I have Kool-Aid going to in the second round. Yeah, he fell. I think you need a guy that can step in day one, and I'm not saying Fassanu wins the job day one at either the left or right tackle. I think you need somebody of starting experience. When everything's said and done, McCarthy won't fall to 11, nor will the Vikings stay at 11, but. Well, they drafted Darnell Wright out of Tennessee at 10 last year. Remember, they made that famous trade with the Eagles and drawing a complete blank. Oh God. So, but they drafted Anthony Wright. Braxton Jones, who's the starting left tackle, they actually really like him. He got hurt, but they're set at tackles. Their interior is bad. That's why I like the Bears to trade down. And the reason why I like him to trade down is because they need to fix the interior. See, you trade down from 9, and I've mocked a trade where they trade with Green Bay, but I can't do it. But I think that Chicago definitely needs to trade down because they need some help on the interior. Jackson Powers Johnson, Cooper Beebe, Zach Frazier, all these guys you shouldn't take at 9 because it's way too high. But all 3 of these guys would be day one starters and would be a massive improvement. The tackles are good, but you need help in that interior, and you're not going to get a guy in the 3rd or the 4th round, but you pick at 9. If I'm Chicago, I trade down, and I'm looking at I think a trade between them and Green Bay. Green Bay has 2 picks in rounds 2, 2 picks in round 3. Makes a lot of sense. I really think it should happen. Will it? No. In my last mock draft that I did, I had Washington giving up a ton of draft capital, and that makes sense because if you're the Bears, your biggest holes in the interior, not the exterior. Probably don't think it's a hot take at all. I think Kool-Aid is the most overhyped guy in a draft. His name is pushing fans and stats are great, but he was never. No, it's kind of funny. Some people think that McKinstry was better than Terrion Arnold. Some people say Terrion Arnold's better, but it's really funny. There's not really a consensus on how good he is. I think he's a pretty good player, but bottom line, he didn't run. I really wanted to see him run. There's been a lot of Bama players that have been really good in the NFL. There's also been a lot that haven't been as good. I think it's interesting, but in this mock draft, he falls to round 2. And him, Cooper DeJean are guys that could easily go into round 2 this year. But I've fought with both of these quarterback picks, but bottom line, both these teams need quarterbacks. And I know that Michael Penix Jr. is more of an Al Davis guy, but the upside's massive. I really think that teams are really going to like the way he conducts himself. I remember last year watching CJ Stroud at the Heisman ceremony, watching him at the combine, and just being really impressed with the way he seemed to be cool. He seemed to be calm. One thing I've always watched at the combine watch who comes around other players. And that's a big thing. Because, like, I watched Bryce Young walking towards CJ Stroud. It's like CJ Stroud was like his own dude. People kind of flocked to him. Like, I noticed Bryce Young it flocked to him. And that was one thing I noticed is like Michael Penix Jr. was just not, he didn't want to follow people around. He was like his own guy. People kind of gravitated towards him. And it sounds really, minute and, obscure. If you're a leader, sometimes it's just a natural quality. I like the way he conducted himself. He just seemed calm. He seemed cool. He didn't seem overly anxious. And it's very, 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 I just really like it. Oh my God. Denver Gator! Sorry, I'm like, I caught up on watching old Super Bowls on YouTube's Bucks, Raiders, Steelers, Cards, and New Orleans Indies. So what's up? So here's the deal, Denver Gator. I just released the greatest mock draft of all time with no trades. Everybody loves it. It was possibly the greatest thing ever. I'm going to put this below here so you can check it out. It's only going to be available, I think it's 1 week after the after it's released, but you can check out the full mock draft. In the description below is a link to the NFL mock draft database. It is NFL mock draft database. By the way, it's free, but there is an ad-free version. As you've seen, there's a lot of ads, man. Yeah, dude, Denver Gator's awesome. I love Denver Gator. Denver Gator's the only guy. I mentioned this earlier as kind of a teaser because I'm on the fence about Denver Gator. There's a chance there could be some big things happening this fall. Denver Gator's the only guy that knows about it. He's the only person I've talked to. There's something big possibly, so. Didn't he cover Thomas? By the way, Arnold is better. A lot of people feel that way. Troy Fatanu, I've been mocking pretty consistently to the Saints. I'm embarrassed by this. I am so embarrassed about this. And I normally wouldn't do this. I'm just drawing a complete blank. I know he went to North Dakota State. I really liked him coming out of the draft. Trevor Penning. Okay, so I apologize for that. So Trevor Penning, it's just been a complete bust. Okay. But if for whatever reason Trevor Penning just pulls it out of his ass, Fatanu can start at guard. I personally think the Saints need 2 offensive linemen, either in free agency or the draft. They don't have the picks in rounds 3 or 4, but they have 4 picks in rounds 5. I think that they really need to go ahead and get somebody. So Troy Fatanu, I absolutely love for the Saints because I think he could play left tackle day one. I also think you can kick him inside and he'll be just fine. I've been mocking this very, very consistently. So I'm a big Troy Fatanu fan. By the way, he is from Henderson, which is where I am currently living at. Who knows what will happen in the future. Quinyon Mitchell at 15. I've been mocking pretty consistently to the Colts. They need help at corner. He's my number 1 guy. I was so impressed at how big he was. I like size, but he was just built huge. And I remember thinking if he runs like 4.52, 4.51, he definitely goes like first round, probably top 20. He ran 4.33. I'm like, holy shit. He really shouldn't fall to 15. But he really shouldn't. But do you like Mitchell better? Do you like Arnold better? That's up for you. But I definitely, Quinyon Mitchell's my number 1 corner. I think that he is going to be a star. Slasher has money on him winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. I am going to be cheering for you. Hopefully that works. When everything's said and done, Seattle will not be picking at 16. Ever since Denver Gator put it in my head that Seattle could trade for Michael Penix Jr., I've been toying around with a possible trade situation with Seattle trading up. Keep in mind, Leslie Frazier is helping out Mike McDonald, who was the former Ravens defensive coordinator. I could see a situation where Seattle does go ahead and try to get Michael Penix Jr. There is a very good possibility Seattle's 3 wide receivers are the best 3 wide receivers in football, not individually, but as a collective. Is there a better 3 receiver group? Jackson Smith and Jigba is phenomenal. DK Metcalf, there's not a better size speed combination in maybe all of sports. And then the best one out of them is Tyler Lockett, but got banged up. But I mean, those 3 together are perfect. Why not get a receiver who can stretch the field and have some fun with them? Ignore the fact that he has some issues on touch. I've been playing around with a Seattle-Denver trade and having Geno Smith go to Denver because Geno Smith would be a perfect fit in Denver. And I could see Seattle saying, you know what, let's go from 16 to 12. We'll take Michael Penix Jr. You get pick number 16 and just take Geno Smith off our hands, who's under a contract only for this year. That may happen. Just throwing it out there. That could happen Tuesday. Probably won't. Could. LSU did give them some problems. I know that. If I remember right, didn't LSU beat them? No, I'm drawing a blank. Drawing a blank if LSU beat them or not. I think 2 years ago they beat them. No, they did. They did 2 years ago. They beat them. Yeah. I mean, seriously, a guy like Michael Penix Jr. kind of makes sense for Seattle. It really does. It really does. And to tell you the truth, what did Sean Payton have his success with? Did he draft Drew Brees? No, he didn't. He got him in free agency. The Chargers drafted him. So the Chargers drafted him. Yeah, LSU lost this year. 2 years ago, Jaden Daniels played like the game of his life and beat Alabama. But yeah, they lost on mine. I got my years mixed up. I apologize. But Drew Brees was part of that famous draft trade where Atlanta took the number 1 pick from the Chargers. So they drafted Michael Vick, and then the Chargers took LaDainian Tomlinson because they knew that they could get Drew Brees in round 2. And then for a long time, people are like, they were quiet about it. They're like, did the Chargers win this trade because Tomlinson's just destroying teams? And then Drew Brees a year or 2 later became the starter. That was one of the big issues. Was Marty Schottenheimer, who was the coach at the time, was furious when they traded Brees without his knowledge. Marty Schottenheimer saw it on TV that Brees left. I want to say originally it was like Miami, but Sean Payton never drafted a quarterback. He's had no success drafting a quarterback. It makes a lot more sense with Geno Smith going there. I don't see Denver wanting Geno. Why not? Geno Smith is exactly what Sean Payton wants out of a quarterback. A cerebral guy, doesn't have the big arm, knows how to dink and dunk. Sean Payton's not a guy who's ever coached up a rookie quarterback. They got Drew Brees in free agency. If you're wanting success this year, all right, you're trying to get to the playoffs. You got a good defense, even though this offseason you're missing some players, okay? You got rid of Russell Wilson. You need somebody to come in immediately. Why go after a rookie where it's a coin flip? And that's what you're looking at with an NFL quarterback, all right? Out of all the quarterbacks that are going to be chosen in first round, I got 5. Probably 2 or 3 of them are going to be busts. Why not take the guy who you know what he can do? He knows how to dissect an NFL defense. He knows what an NFL playbook's supposed to look like. He's on the last year of his contract, plus he has weapons. He's on the last year of his deal. You could rework that shit. By the way, Denver Gator would love Geno Smith in Denver. Just saying that. But in this mock draft, Bo Nix goes here, and then Seattle, which needs help on the front seven. By the way, their top 3 linebackers are all gone. I think when everything's said and done, Seattle's going to trade down, and they're going to take a linebacker. I think they're going to go after Adrian Cooper, who I really like quite a bit, but he's not a first-round talent. Peyton Cooper is a first-round talent. Massive red flags as far as the medical. If you have him cleared, get him. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who I would love to see come to Kansas City because I've loved his dad so much, but he's more of a third-round pick. But he's not a guy that you would take early. Remember when they traded for Roquan Smith mid-season? The Ravens did. Their defense went to a whole new level. They got Patrick Queen, was a former first-round pick. They traded for Roquan Smith. Now, then they have one of the best defenses in all football. Having 3 down linebackers is very key in Mike Macdonald's system. They lost their starting 3. Their top 3 linebackers are gone from that team. So this is why Seattle doesn't have a second-round pick. But they were smart enough to get Leonard Williams to a long-term deal. So you got some players in the front. Nobody would be a linebacker. You have some decent edge rushers. So here you go Byron Murphy, but if you want to go Jazon Newton, you can do that, or you guys keep on calling him Johnny. But you need some help at linebacker. I really think that you go young, but we'll see. Seattle's do take chances on reach-ins. I could see both too. Seattle's one of those teams you never know what the fuck they're going to do in a draft. I think they're going to trade down, and I really think that they're going to try to get either Cooper or Wilson. There's a chance. Remember Nakobe Dean? A lot of people are surprised he slid down to the 3rd round. It could be the same thing with Peyton Wilson. He may fall all the way to the 3rd. I really think Seattle's going to trade down. I'm looking at Green Bay at 2025 because they have 2 picks in the 2nd round. Seattle doesn't have a 2nd round pick, so that just makes a lot of sense to me. I could see that happening, and you go ahead and you do that. And at 25, even though it's a reach, you can take a linebacker there. You don't want to take a linebacker at 16. You trade down, get a 2nd round pick, you take a linebacker. You may go back-to-back linebackers even. You may just want to say, you know what? We have a defensive-minded coach. I'm bringing in Leslie Frazier, who is a former head coach, really good defensive mind. I got all this talent on offense. Let's just get the quarterback with the big arm, and we'll fill the roster with 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round guys on defense, and we'll just see if we can get somebody who can play. Maybe you get lucky. Peyton Wilson falls to the 3rd round, stays healthy. And by the way, Peyton Wilson stays healthy, he's going to be a star. I mean, watch him play. He's amazing. But here, they do need help in the interior. We'll see if the Seahawks GM was a smart. Well, I think Seattle's going to struggle. I really do. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's funny because, like, Arizona has all these draft picks. Arizona has to get and they have 7 picks in the first 104. Out of those 7, they need to get 3 to 4 day 1 starters, and they need to pan out. But it wouldn't surprise me if Seattle finishes dead last in the division, because I really think the Rams are doing some good things even without Aaron Donald. San Francisco is still dangerous. We're going to find out what Arizona does in the draft, but I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., if he's anything like his dad, wow. Next 8, Terrion Arnold. Look, you got a new defensive coordinator. You have holes in the secondary. Whoever the best corner is. By the way, it wouldn't surprise me if Nate Wiggins is the pick here either, but I think a guy like Arnold, by the way, Arnold played some safety. He's new to playing corner. So this is a guy, we talked at length about DeGene Cooper, but here's the drill. Terrion Arnold could be a safety in the NFL. Nobody knows that. they moved him from safety to corner at college, but so he's still learning. But I think if he's available at 17, it's just too much to pass up. Too much to pass up. Newton makes it to the Dolphins. That's when the Lions trade up and fleece Miami. Well, Miami really needs a third-round pick. Miami really needs a third-round pick. So I think it would be a fair trade for both teams. The NFC West might be. I think it is. I think the Rams and the Niners are going to be again two playoff teams. We're going to see what happens with Seattle. But if Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy that everybody thinks he can be, this is going to be really big. But he's got to be the guy everybody thinks he can be. But if he is, Kyler Murray's healthy for the whole year. Remember, 7 picks and the top 104. They need to get some day one starters, and they got to pan out. Man, Perry, Perry, your Lion draft day is soon. It's in Detroit. Is there anything we can do to get you better and just okay? Denver Gator, I hope you are doing great too. I've been mocking this a lot. Brock Bowers, Cincinnati. I think this is the guy that free falls. A lot of people think he's going to the Jets at 10. I think the Jets are going to prioritize offensive line over an additional weapon at tight end. However, I could see it happening. Cincinnati taking Bowers. It almost seems unfair, but you know what? They only got Gesicki. He's never really panned out. He's only on a 1-year deal. This would be a lot of fun for the Bengals. I think you need help on the front 7. You could potentially go offensive line, but that offensive line unit really kind of started to come together. You're not really going to replace Aaron Donald, but you could go defensive tackle here if you wanted to. I kind of like taking a guy in the first round who's not a defensive tackle. It's just undue pressure. Verse would be a great fit here. You guys been calling him JPJ. I don't know why that keeps throwing me off, but Jackson Powers Johnson's the only guy I've been mocking for the Steelers. In this mock draft, Felice Fuega just free falls. I think Miami just goes with the value here. They could go corner. They could go defensive tackle. They could go linebacker. I've mocked them in my 2-round mock draft with going a big receiver in round 2, somebody like Keon Coleman, who if he ran in a 4.5 range, he'd probably be a top 20 pick because he ran a 4.63. That he's probably going to go later in the draft. There's a chance that this is a guy who, even though he has some really good tape, that he's a guy that may want to go in round 3. But in this mock draft, Fuega is a guy that Miami just takes in value here. 18, 19, 20 would all look great. Yeah, I mean, all these guys would look really great. I think Fuega would be a guard, and this would be a lot of fun, by the way. Put him next to Panay Sewell. Oh, God, that would be fun. Leggett is my biggest boom bust player. If he works out, he's a star. If he doesn't, it's a waste of a pick. You're right. And by the way, so let's look at the negative. He was with Carolina. He's a 2nd-round pick out of Carolina. Absolutely loved him out of Colorado. He's a very similar player. And I'm just drawing a complete blank on the guy's name. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. Because he signed with somebody else. And he was a guy that returned punts, even though he was like 221, had massive upside. He was a guy I absolutely loved, but he was raw. Laviska Shenault, that's it. And let me see here. Laviska Shenault. I don't even know who he's. We have the same birthday. That's pretty cool. Me and Laviska Shenault have the same birthday. And I have no idea what team he's on. But he's a guy that that's your low. Okay, so with Leggett, that's your low, Laviska Shenault, who 4 years in the league, he's done absolutely nothing. That's who he's built like. The difference is Laviska Shenault, when he went to the combine, I think he ran like a 4.57, 4.58. Where Leggett, I think ran 4.39, and the speed showed up. The thing is, though, if you watch Leveska Chenault in college, he looked like he was a 4.4 dude at 220. He looked like a running back, just like Leggett does. So the bust would be a guy like Leveska Chenault, who's done nothing in 4 years in the NFL. The plus would be a guy who also went to USC, University of South Carolina, and that's Deebo Samuel. But yeah, I mocked him actually going to Buffalo in the second round. So he's so raw, people think he's a DK Metcalf. He's not really, he's not like, seriously, you want to compare him to somebody, Leveska Chenault's the guy. Leveska Chenault, and I loved Leveska Chenault. I thought he was going to be a star. It just didn't work out. He spent 1 year in Jacksonville. Jacksonville drafted in the second round. And then Doug Peterson came in and said, no. Keep in mind, when Urban Meyer, he wanted guys that were like running back, receiver types. I thought it was like a hand in the glove fit. Of course, Urban Meyer didn't work out. Doug Peterson came in and said, nope. And anyway. But he's a guy that I would love for. I think Buffalo would be a great spot for him in the second round. I think Kansas City in the bottom of the second would be a phenomenal fit. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm a huge Leggett fan as well, Perry. And he's not going to be called round. I would be floored if he was picked in round 1. But I think he'll go in round 2. And I think he'll go after 50. It'll be very interesting. I can see Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City. Brandon Ayuk has moved. I could see San Francisco being interested. I don't think Brandon Ayuk goes anywhere, but I'm hearing it more and more and more. Fuega in this mock draft just value. He would be a guard, but you have to be careful because Terrion Arnold missed most of last year. He's coming back, but he's had injury issues. He's also expensive. He's not the long-term solution. Austin Jackson, who did sign to a big-time deal, really struggled to play guard and right tackle. But a lot of people thought that he would be a guy that would eventually move over to left tackle. We'll have to wait and see. This is kind of a questionable pick, to be honest with you, but the value means a lot. And plus, if you're going to go ahead and you're going to give Tua all that money, go ahead and protect him with who would be probably the best offensive lineman available at 21. Wiggins, Philly is basically the only thing I've been mocking. Vic Fangio loves playing man. This is the best man, pure man corner in the draft. Just makes sense. When everything's said and done, Minnesota will not be picking at 23. But they lost both their edge rushers. Now, they did pick up Jonathan Greenard, but Chop Robinson wouldn't make a lot of sense if Minnesota holds pick 23. When everything's said and done, they won't hold pick 23. J.C. Latham, I think, fits like a glove, a hand in a glove. I really think that they would love to get the massive tackle here. I think Dallas wants to be more of a running team. The starting running back is not on the roster currently. I think Trey Benson, if he's available when Dallas picks in the second round, I think it's pick 55. That will be the pick. If you have him running behind J.C. Latham, expect a Pro Bowl. By the way, Trey Benson's a guy I really, really like. I can see an O-line run early. Absolutely. Because we didn't talk about this. Washington doesn't have a left tackle. They pick at 36 and 40. Patriots don't have a left tackle. Are they picking one at 3? Probably not. Could they pick one? By the way, if Bill Belichick was still there, I could see them taking Joe Alt at 3. But since he's not, no. But Patriots need a tackle. Washington needs a tackle. Kansas City could trade out of round 1. There could be a team that wants to sneak in there and get somebody. Kansas City's a team that needs a left tackle. And I think Kansas City sticks at 32, but when we look at this draft, we talked about the Chargers already. If the Chargers don't take a right tackle, they pick again at 37. Tennessee picks at 38. Tennessee needs a tackle. So you're 100% correct because you're looking at New England, Washington, the Chargers at right tackle, and then you have Tennessee. So, and you're also talking Kansas City at 32. So New England at 34, Washington at 36, Tennessee at 38, Washington again at 40. Is Washington taking 2 left tackles? No. But yeah, you're 100% correct. All right, so the final 8, Tyler Guyton. I've heard this from several different sources. He did do a top 30 pick to Green Bay and supposedly aced it. This is a guy that's skyrocketing up draft boards. He may not get past 15, and I know the Colts probably aren't going to draft a tackle, but I say probably because Bernard Raymond, a lot of people don't remember this. This is a guy I kept on mocking to the Colts in the first round. He slid all the way to the third round. He's the Colts starting left tackle. He's good. He's not great, but could the Colts say, you know what? Let's make an upgrade, or hey, Tyler Guyton, Braden Smith got injured last year. We gave him a big contract, but let's just play hardball with him. Whatever. Tyler Guyton's skyrocketing up draft boards. He played right tackle. Most NFL teams think he's a natural left. I think Green Bay is going to make a move, and I'm looking at 16 at Seattle. I know I said 15, but I think that there's a lot of teams that are going to try to make a move. The Colts are all of a sudden, over the last couple of days, I've seen multiple rumors that the Colts want to trade down, which is kind of weird because you got that rookie quarterback. You need help at corner. Do you really want to trade down? But I'm seeing it more and more. So, but Tyler Guyton's rising up draft boards really fast. You need help at edge rusher. You have a defensive-minded head coach, but interior offensive line. I've gone back and forth with Tampa Bay. I don't feel great about this, but I've been mocking it my last couple ones because, look, you bring in Baker Mayfield, protect the dude. Jazon Newton, people have been calling him Johnny, whatever. I actually like him more than Byron Murphy, but Byron Murphy is I think a much higher upside, much better pure athlete. I like Newton better personally. I think that I could see the way that this mock draft worked out, there's not an edge rusher available. If I'm Arizona, I trade up in this draft and I try to get Verse or Latu. And in this mock draft, I have Verse going 19. There's no reason Arizona can't make a move to 16 and take Verse. And I can easily see that. But in this mock draft, there are no trades. Defensive tackle, he'll be a day one starter, by the way. But they'll rotate him in on obvious run situations or rotate him out in obvious run situations. And in obvious pass situations, he'll get a lot. So I think, I got 27. I think that's really low. I keep every mock draft I've had, Brian Thomas Jr. has fallen, and it sucks because a lot of people feel like I don't like this kid. No, I love this kid. I watched LSU Wisconsin bowl game, and Brian Thomas Jr. put on a show, and he goes to the combine and he put on a show. So, the Cards can bar well in round 2. Well, the Cardinals pick 36. Let me see if I have this right. They get 35th. I'm sorry. But they pick 3 times in rounds 3. So I really think when everything's said and done, I think the Cardinals are going to pick maybe 2 or 3 times in the second round. And I think they're going to do multiple things in round 2. So what they'll do is going to be interesting, but in this draft, there are no trades. I think they're going to trade up in round 1 to get an edge rusher because they only had 32 sacks last year. They need to get somebody to get after the quarterback. In this mock draft, you go interior, and then what I would probably do at 35, whoever you have highest. Braylon Trice is a guy that people look at the 4-7. So here's the deal. he knew he wasn't going to run a good 40, so he dropped 20 pounds for the combine and still ran a bad 40, so he shot himself in the foot. I heard at his pro day, he was like at 268, which is his natural weight. The combine, he was like 247, but he ran a 472. He's naturally a bigger dude. Braylon Trice will probably be available at 35, should go in the first round, but he's not going to. Really good player. Or Sean Nealon, I'm calling him Diet Aiden Hutchinson. The Mac Aiden Hutchinson, whatever you want to call him. He's a guy who could be really well. Braswell is backed up both Dallas Turner and Will Anderson at Alabama. Got massive upside. He'll be available in the second round. He could be really, really good. You get all those guys in the second round. Brian Thomas Jr. to the Bills would absolutely suck, but yeah. Yeah, a lot of good players are going to go in round 2. I'll be honest, the more and more I think about, the more and more I like the interior of the offensive line better, but I got a feeling Dan Campbell would really like Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean, by the way, would be an absolute monster on special teams, which remember, you got the new rules. I don't know how this is going to affect things, but I got a feeling it's going to make things more exciting. I think we'll actually see more return touchdowns this year than we have in the past. And I think having guys that are willing to play special teams and are good at playing special teams, I think is going to be important. Am I saying you draft a guy in the first round because he's going to be a good special teams player? No. But getting a guy who can contribute immediately on special teams, Brian Branch did. Didn't he play special teams? Because I remember making several special teams tackles. In my opinion, if Detroit drafts Cooper DeJean, they're going to call him a corner. They're going to have him play corner, but could you move him around? You could. In this mock draft, I'll be honest with you, Cooper DeJean and Zach Frazier, I could easily flip these two guys very easily. It almost makes sense. Amarius Mims in this mock draft falls. If he stays healthy, he could easily be a top 5 tackle in a couple years. The upside's amazing. In case you've never seen this dude play, he's 6'8", he's 340 plus, but his footwork, his movement skills are just ridiculous. Guys that are that big should not be able to move like that. Can't stay healthy. I'm not sure he's a first-round player, to be honest, but I think Baltimore would be a great fit. And then I've been mocking the same thing. Patrick Paul's a guy that is not on a lot of people's draft board. Somebody turned me on to him not too long ago. 6'7.5", 336. Maybe the best pure pass protector in the NFL. I think this is a dude who day one started on the left side. I could easily see a team trying to trade up to 31 to get Patrick Paul just to fuck the Chiefs. I could easily see that. So that is my mock draft. I'm going to put it in the description one more time. It will be gone. It will be gone in about a week. So that's my first round mock draft. Could Brian Fisk go? So here's the deal. I really want to put Brian Fisk in round 1. When he ran to 4.79, I said, yeah. When he ran to 4.79, I said, yeah, this is a first round tackle. And then I keep doing my mock draft and my defensive tackles fall and fall and fall. Matter of fact, the only reason I got one going at 16 is because there are no trades, but I don't think a tackle in this draft is going in the top 20 period. And I just kind of I'll say 19 because I could see the Rams taking one, but Fisk is a guy should go in the first round. I want to go in the first round. In this draft, no. Kingsley Matea is Penei Sewell's cousin, and I originally mocked him to Kansas City because Andy Reid went to BYU. Andy Reid loves BYU players. Kingsley Matea has more upside, is a better prospect. I think Patrick Paul's more day one ready, and Kansas City is trying to three-peat, and they need somebody who can step in immediately and protect. And I think with Patrick Paul, you can do that. Sam Matea, when everything's said and done, like 15 years from now, we're saying Sam Matea is a better player than Patrick Paul, no brainer. But either one would be good for Kansas City. And both those guys have been talked about as round 1 players. Jordan Morgan's been talked as the top 20 player. And I'm even have him in my first round. So I'm kind of a dick. So By the way, Fisk is a guy I could easily see going to Detroit at 29 easily. And I think by the way, if Braden Fisk goes to Detroit at 29, you guys should be ecstatic. You guys should be jumping up and down. That is my first round mock draft without trades Tuesday. My final mock draft is going to be live. It's going to have trades. I'm going to use the Rich Hill trade chart, first time ever, and it's going to be the exclusive trade chart. So, do you think any team would reach? Absolutely. There's several teams I think that would reach. Detroit's reached. If you want to tell me that Gibbs isn't a reach, fine. I'm going to die on the hill and say that he was, but I'm not an argument. That's one of the things about me. I really don't like to argue, but I want to hear everybody's opinion. And I never want this to be a channel where everybody has to agree with me. There's a red pill channel out there, and I'm not going to say who it is. If you disagree with the host, everybody just jumps on your ass. And I never want this to be a channel where everybody has to agree with me, because I want everybody's opinion. But I do. I think Gibbs was a reach. Of course it was a reach. It worked. So who gives a fuck? Detroit could reach. Absolutely. Kansas City. There's been talks about Kansas City making a move with the Colts at 15. I'm a little surprised I'm hearing a lot of talk about the Colts trading down, but all right. I think Philly can move up. Who knows what the fuck Dallas is going to do? Minnesota's going to make a move. I think Minnesota is guaranteed to make a move. It's just a question, are they going to move up at 3, 4, or 5? Arizona, with all the draft picks, why wouldn't they make a move? I'll be honest. I think Buffalo is more likely to trade down. But when if they say, you know what? Brian Thomas Jr. is really good. Let's move up. I could see the Giants, even though they traded the second round pick this year for Brian Burns, they pick at 47. I could see the Giants saying, hey, let's get back into the first round. Atlanta is definitely a team I could see getting back into the first round. Tampa Bay has 2 picks in the third round. They may want to move up. I mean, they need help at the offensive line. The Bills do need a wide receiver. Here's the deal. I think Buffalo copies Green Bay and takes a receiver in round 2, and then like somewhere 3 to 5, and then at the very end of the draft. So, by the way, the Bills, for those of you who don't know, the Bills have 9 picks after round 3. It's ridiculous. So they have 2 picks in rounds 4. They have 3 picks in rounds 5, 2 picks in round 6, and 1 pick in round 7. Did I do my math right? Okay, 8 picks, not 9. So they don't have a pick in round 3, but is there a receiver that's going to fall in the 4th round that can play day 1? Sure. Is there a chance out of these 8 picks they have after the 3rd round that they're going to take 2 or 3 receivers? Why not? Why not? By the way, with 3 picks in rounds 5 and 2 picks in rounds 4, can they trade back into the 3rd round and get somebody? Absolutely. Absolutely. I could actually see, here's the deal. I think Buffalo could easily trade up in the 2nd round. They could trade back into the 3rd round. So yeah. It's funny. I did a 3-round mock draft, and at the bottom of the 3rd round, at pick number 94, I had Jerry Rice's kid going to San Francisco at 94. Yeah. And San Francisco picks at 94, and they pick at 132. And if I'm San Francisco, I absolutely make that move. And I do it partly because I think he's a really good player. I think he fits in perfectly with San Francisco wants to do. And if I'm San Francisco, I would absolutely positively do it. Kansas City in the third round would make a lot of sense as well. But I got him going late third, early fourth. And by the way, I think he's a much better player. It's just that this wide receiver class is just stacked. But I mean, to tell you the truth, there's a lot of teams that could use him. I could see Marvin Harrison Jr. being the fourth pick. I'm looking at Arizona. They pick again at 90. They're probably going to need more than just Marvin Harrison Jr. I think getting a guy like I think it's Braden Rice. It's Brandon Rice. Brandon Rice. Arizona's a team. If I'm Arizona, I take a couple receivers. I just don't stick with Marvin Harrison Jr. and go problem solved. They need several starters, but they could also draft a couple of receivers. So, I mean, I'm looking at late in the third round. So Arizona at 90, Green Bay at 91 probably wouldn't. Tampa Bay at 92 would be a great pick, a really great pick. Baltimore at 93 would also be a really smart move. San Francisco, of course, Kansas City mentioned before. Jacksonville picks at 96. That would be a smart move for Jacksonville. Real smart move for Jacksonville. Real smart move for Jacksonville. I've said this before. I'll keep saying it. I don't think T. Higgins is staying in Cincinnati. Bengals pick at 97. That would be a phenomenal, especially if they get Brock Bowers. Why not get a receiver too? It's funny. I've mocked in my mock drafts, and I've done this several times. I've had Brock Bowers in round 1 and Ladd McConkey in round 2 for the Bengals. 2 weapons for Joe Burrow. I mean, that would suck. 98 Pittsburgh. They need a receipt. We didn't even talk about the Steelers needing a receiver. I've been mocking Jackson Powers Johnson to the Steelers, but out of all the teams in the AFC North, which team needs a receiver more than the Steelers? Nobody. If you want to tell me the Ravens do, I get it, but the Ravens have a couple tight ends. Isaiah Likely, I'm going to call it tight end. And Flowers goes into the season as their number 1 receiver, and then they still had other guys. I mean, look at Pittsburgh, like they need help. You mentioned which team could reach. Pittsburgh picks again. I've mocked multiple times. Pittsburgh picks at 51. I've mocked multiple times of Pittsburgh trading up because of Donde Mitchell falls in the second round. So I've had a Donde Mitchell falling the 46, and in Pittsburgh at 51 trades at 46, and that's the Colts. And I don't think the Colts would draft a receiver, but would they trade down 5 spots in the draft, get some draft capital? Yeah. By the way, if you're saying, hey, Dan, why you mocked a trade with the Colts, but you don't see them trading down? Yes. There's a difference between trading down 6 spots in round 2 and staying at 15 and taking the number 1 corner in the draft. I think if no corners are off the board and I'm the Colts and I'm picking at 15, I 100% take a corner. But could I see a situation where the Colts trade down? I keep hearing about it, but let's just say the Raiders pick Quinyon Mitchell and you're not sold on Terrion Arnold, or the Raiders take Arnold and you're not sold on Mitchell. Could you trade down? Yeah. I've been hearing this a lot the last couple of days. The Colts trading down, Kansas City, and then I'm almost convinced the Lions are going to trade up. I'm just not sure who. What a great question, though, Perry. What a great question. So final mock draft will be tomorrow. It will be the trades. I'm going to use the Rich Hill chart exclusively. I'm going to try to make the trades fair or as even as I possibly can for both sides. I'll have all the trades lined up before I go on. In this draft, I didn't have people overruling my picks, but I was more than happy to do that. I had some weird shit just pop up on my screen here. But the final mock draft I will have will be without veto power. This draft, if you guys wanted to, you guys could have vetoed, but since y'all like my pick so much, don't forget I will be live for the mock draft live in just 6 days. I'll be here for the whole first round. Gooch will be on board. Keaton Talk Sports may be coming on. I hope to see everybody here. My social media links are below. I'm going to end the show, but if anybody has any final thoughts, questions, concerns, comments, suggestions, anything at all, I want to hear from you. I'll give you guys just a few seconds, then I am out, but I will be back Tuesday with my final draft, and then Thursday, the entire first round, I will be here live. I definitely want to see you. Hey, Perry, I'm very looking forward to you, and I can't wait to hear your reaction when the Lions trade up. I'm actually excited. I'm ready. I'm giggity. I meant to say giddy, but I said giggity. Freudian slip, I guess, but what a great way to end the show. Guys, enjoy your weekend. I'll see y'all back on Tuesday.